Hail Pandawans and journeymen walking that illustrated path. Or should I say, Orktober path. We still got a few days left, right? I know. The end of October looms grimly on the horizon. But we'll keep bringing that orcish thunder till this month ends. What do you say? Ha ha! Well, what better way to bring thunder than with the orcish god of thunder himself? That's right! Today I'm talking about the Mighty Thor. Mighty Thorc, huh? That's another classic. Well, as you can see, I'm just doodling away. I did a sketch first because, I don't know, it's kind of hard to see, and I didn't want to noodle too long on those, waste your guys' precious time watching this with the dilly-dallying. So I did a quick sketch that I liked, and I just started doodling over from that, Well, one of the mantras I try to keep in mind when I'm walking that illustrated path is, from silence comes thunder. Keeping it with the Mighty Thorc, bringing the thunder vibe. Yes, silence comes from thunder. And you're like, Grandpa, what are you talking about? Are you sipping on the cough syrup again? No, it's too early. It's sunrise with Samwise. And so, well, what does from silence come thunder? What does that mean? Well, let me explain. So my favorite part of the day, usually, most times, is my drive to work and, my drive home. Because that's usually about 20, 25 minutes, depending on traffic and all that sort of stuff. But that time that I have is almost always spent in silence. In the solace of solitude, the solace of silence. It's a good name for a black metal album. Yeah, but it's not so much, it's the inspiration that usually can bring. I don't have any music, no podcasts, no nothing, just me and my thoughts, stories, and my ideas. I love that. You got to listen and look for inspiration, find that muse. And I can't do that if I'm if I'm banging my head to Manowar or something like that, listening to, the latest comedians, books on tape. Inspiration is usually found in little small flashes. It's not usually a big bolt of lightning like our Mighty Thorc will be conjuring up here later on in this video. It can be, but most of the time it's not. It's kind of like when you hear that, not all those who wander are lost. Yeah, all right, but most of them are. No direction. Yeah, inspiration is not like a bolt of lightning. It isn't a bonfire or, even a funeral pyre. It's like a split-second flash, a spark, an ember. Now, I got to keep my eye on the road. I'm driving. I got to be a good driver. But that other eye is keeping aware of any, potential flashes on the horizon, that little spark, inspirational embers. And that's the way kind of art goes. Most ideas starts, small, right? And if I'm, distracted by the ramblings of some podcast or some, gloom and doom that's on the news, or even glorious heavy metal, I can miss it. Need to be ready to catch those gems, those diamonds on my windshield. That's actually a ripoff from a Tom Waits song. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, so usually when I'm driving, man, I try to just think and create in that blessed silence. And with the topic of this video, as you know, from silence can come thunder. Thunder always follows that flash, Just need to help it rumble forth. I mean, you've seen that before, right? In storms, sometimes there's a flash of lightning and it, flashes. And then if it's close, boom, right there, that thunder comes. But most of the times, it takes a few seconds to settle in, and then it's just like a small, that's not a very good thunder sound. Let me try that again. They both stop. But you know what I mean, right? Inspiration and ideas work like that. Sit in silence, wait for that flash, and help bring forth the thunder, like our Mighty Thorc is doing here. It's funny because I'll be driving, and it could almost be anywhere. It doesn't have to just be on the the drive to work and the drive back, but just anywhere. And I'm sure you've noticed that too. You're driving and you just like get like deep in thought, or maybe you are listening to some stories or stuff like that. And it's like a few minutes later, you're like, oh, I'm here already. Was I driving on autopilot? You just kind of, oh, glad we made it here safe. But usually like after, even if it just seems like a few minutes, I'll have some new ideas or, figured out some character arc or design or some answer to some nagging plot point in the story. It's pretty cool how our, here comes the lightning. It's pretty cool how our minds work like that. Yeah, so here I am on the video now, flipping around, trying to figure out. So I was doing this, and I had originally intended to start doing some colors on this. And as I was going, I'm like, you know what? I kind of just like that black and white. It looks cool. The tones really pop, stuff like that. When you start adding that layer of color, the colors can be, maybe a little too washed out, because from here I'm going some strong whites and some, really deep and heavy black tones as well. And so when you put color on that, the blacks usually still end up looking, dark and black. And then the whites, like if I were to start coloring on top of this with some red, those whites are just going to look like white and pink. And that is not thunderous enough for the Mighty Thorc, right? And as you can see, I don't know if you're like, older fans of comics, this was one of the costume designs that, Thor has had in the 70s and, all through the 80s and stuff. I really got into Thor with the Walt Simonson run when he was doing stuff with like Beta Ray Bill. If you're not familiar, he's this cool, just hellish creature that was worthy enough to sort of wield the hammer of Thor. Also in Walt Simonson's run, Thor got turned into a frog. So that was pretty crazy too. I remember seeing that in the comic book shops, and I'm like, let's see, I got like a couple bucks to buy some new comics. Am I going to get a frog comic? And I never did. I ended up checking it out in the the paperback run when they did all that. And it really cool story. That was a great run by Simonson. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he was a super prolific artist, and he's still doing work and stuff today. But I think the Mighty Thor was some of his best stuff. He did some stuff with X Factor 2, which was like the original X-Men team when they sort of came back. And I believe the story, I can't remember it all, was like they were some sort of government agency that was like hunting mutants, but they were really the original X-Men, and they were actually saving the mutants. Yeah, so as you can see, I'm starting to work in some of that, red color for Thor's cape. And yeah, see, like, if I put more time into it, it would have looked better doing the colors. But I had started out wanting to do just a cool black and white image, and then, inspiration happens, and you start wanting to do colors, and then you're like, you know what? Let's go with the original thing. We'll save some colors for this bad boy maybe later. Just do it on a new one more October video before this month ends. Well, I hope I didn't ramble too much, but give yourself a chance to find that inspiration. Turn off, the screens, turn off, obviously not this one because you got to finish watching this video. But after this, give yourself a little break, let some of that inspiration come to you, and you'll be really surprised that from that silence, thunder can come a rumbling. All right, Pandawans, well, remember your ABCs. Always be creating. Cheers and beers to you all, and also, happy Halloween and October. Hail! Ha ha ha!